Well, I hope you guys can see this thing alright in the sunshine. We got this giant cool train in St. Thomas here. So we're railroad people, you know. St. Thomas, the railway city. Well, we're mixing passenger trains and freight trains together here on a freaking ghost train. But anyways, I'm gonna do a little recording here in front of this ghost train. And maybe just even sit down here for a second and enjoy the view. There's cars going around me. It's in a one of these turnabouts, you know, roundabouts. But anyways, I just wanted to get in a little bit of a video where I'm not going too crazy, you know, emotionally and all this other stuff. This is serious stuff, you know. There's a war in this universe against good and bad, and there might be a lot of noise and wind and stuff, but just ignore that. I'll try to talk loud. You know, there's one God, you know, and he had a son. We don't know if this God has, our God has, you know, a neighborhood and neighbors and a dog and all these other things. But for now, we just know there's one God. I'll ask him when we get there, you know, if he borrows sugar from his neighbor or something silly. But, you know, for now we know we have one God and he has a son. We don't know if he's got a wife or a vagina or whatever. We just know that he's got a son. And he raised that son and shared everything he is with that son. And at one point that son started to create. And what he created, you know, was great. But he gives free will to everyone. And one of the angels said, I want to be God. He had so much power. And so he started to rebel and say, we can all be gods, you know, to the angels. And a lot of them said, that sounds great. And they wanted to be part of it. You know, if there was another God, God would tell us, you know, there's another God, go worship that guy or something, you know. But I've learned that he's honest and he's real. And he says there is no other gods. And we are gods. We are made in the image of him. And so, you know, he had to not just zap these rebels, or else the universe would have worshipped out of fear. So he had to play it out, and he's got to let it get really bad. So we look back and we say, never again, you know. And if it ever pops up again, heck, I'll race over to the other side of the universe in 10,000 years or whatever and stop it, logically or physically. And I'm sure billions others will be right behind me and in front of me, trying to stop it too. You know, it's independence, it's selfishness, it's sin. And when we have the me, I attitude, then we're part of the devil's system, whether we know it or not. And when we're part of love and we give and we care, and we're part of the community, and we do stuff because we know it's right, even if it takes our efforts and our energy and even up to our life, we do stuff when we know it's right. And we're going to mess up. That's us. But we stay on the operating system of love, of us. We, you know, it's community. So, you know, there's these two systems, and the one sounded okay at first, and nobody really knew what it meant or understood it, even though God tried to explain. But so we're in the middle of this working out, and we're promised that it's only going to happen once, that it's never going to come up the second time. And that's because he lets it fully play out. Sorry, I get distracted by cars. They're all spinning around me in circles. But he lets this all play out, you know. And he gives the devil freedom and platforms to prove his point. You know, before sin came in, it was a perfect world. It was near perfect before the flood. We were smarter, lived longer, and we messed it up in that platform. Before the cross, the devil had full run of this world, and he's the one that came into people's hearts. And that's why God had to deal with the world differently in the Old Testament, because it wasn't his world. And now Jesus won the world back at the cross. So God's the one that comes into everyone's heart. But still, he made a background and a platform around us, and refraction and all these things with science, where it looks like we're on a bigger world than we are. You know, and we're not. We're on a smaller world, but we're on top of a big world. You know, it might look flat, but it's not. It's slightly round. You know, we're on top of a humongous earth, and everything is 100 times bigger and brighter. We're in a dark theater on top of God's new throne, in God's new throne, and the devil's got control of it, so he can be proved wrong. It's going to be over with, but we're on an earth so big, it's on a 7-day cycle with the sun. Everything we see and know is a small version of the real out there. And, you know, there's a lot of evidence to this in the Bible and elsewhere, but the Bible's about to go away with this false Christ when he comes on Easter. And everything's going to change really, really soon. So God made a new world, and he says, let's play this out, and let's make people that will replace the fallen angels. And they're upset about that a bit. You know, they're upset about a lot of stuff. And they're our enemies. And they're using trickery of niceness and God and all these other things in the Bible. And we got to be aware of these things. So that, you know, the first angel's message is the gospel. And the second and third is the warning about the false gospel and the false Christ in Babylon. You know, there's so many details. I'd like to go off into all of them, but I don't have time for that. I have time for a 20-minute video. I'm going to check the time in a minute. And God created a world, and he created beings that are godlike. They can create and do things, and he's about to give the angels power of godlikeness and he already has, to create with these Mandela effects and things, but it's going to get worse. Things are going to appear and disappear. And so anyways, back to the storyline. You know, he creates this world, and he expands the old universe out, and he builds a new one and expands that out as the old one's going. And we got this giant Earth we're on, and we got all these planets around us that are 100 times bigger and farther away than our perception of the ones in the sky. In our perception of the sun, we got one that's 100 times bigger and 100 times farther away than our perception of it, and the moon and all these things. For now, we got this small day moon and month moon, and the sun going around for the day and stuff. And we got an Earth so big every intelligent being will have a room here for an embassy for all eternity. And we got a huge sun wherever I go. I'll say that biggest star in the sky, that's home. And heaven's going to be beyond our comprehension. All this junk DNA is going to pop into what it's supposed to be. We're going to start glowing and shining and using every bit of energy, and we won't even have to poop or pee. And we're going to eat perfect foods and think perfectly and live in a perfect world with perfect emotions and perfect interactions. And it's beyond what we can comprehend here. We're going to be happy. We're going to be full of energy. We're going to think clear. We're going to have every single high multiplied by 1,000,000. Everything is going to be like a cartoon. The animals are going to be smarter. Everything's going to be great. But we got to get out of here first. And we got to prove the system of selfishness wrong. We have to live it out. We have to speak it out. We have to be it. We have to be God. God is love. He gives. The greatest servant is the greatest in heaven. This stuff is contrary to what we've learned, you know. We're used to us giving the sacrifice to God. God gave us the sacrifice. We're used to hating our enemies and loving those around us. We love our enemies. God loved us. He loves us. He has a plan for everybody, no matter how bad they are. He's got a reality. He's not going to torture people for all eternity for doing what they're naturally inclined to do. That's lies in this Christian world. The dead ain't watching us. They're sleeping peacefully, waiting for the resurrection. You know, he doesn't know every detail of the future. Time is real. It happens. We're accountable. This is real right now. He knows the future because when the time comes, he makes it happen. One after another. God is the real, Jesus is the real Son of God, and he's fully God. And he became a created being to save us. It's like me becoming a plant to save all the plants. We can't comprehend it here. We probably won't even comprehend it in heaven. It's so huge. It'll even become more of a mystery when we see the situation we're in. But for now, just like this is playing out, and God gave a platform for the devil to try his independence with a perfect world before the flood and before the sin came in, you know, and before the cross, he gave the devil reign of this world. And in the last 500 years, he's given the devil a background that looks like we're a speck of dust in the middle of nothing. In evolution, he created the heavens as old, you know. And so it looks like we're in what we're a real world, but we're on top of a giant world. And the people out there, all these youth in the flat earth, don't know what I'm saying. I'm just saying what's outside of your snow globe. That's all. And I'm telling the people that there is evidence out there in the prophets, like the King James Bible, Ellen White, Bob Dylan, you know, things like this. There's tons of evidence about this, you know, moon being used as a bad guy and the sun being used as a bad guy also. All the new prophets are in the music and in the movies and in the books and stuff. Sorry, I'm getting cold, so I'm going to put up my hood here. And besides, this is the coat, you know. that the devil, it represents the Grim Reaper's coat, you know. And it basically is saying that we're not afraid to die. You know, the Christians know, we've seen all the scriptures, we know that it's going to come down to that. You know, in the end time when the devil runs his 42 months, it's going to come down to us dying. You know, we're okay with it. We're like back dancing around, all the saved, you know. I'm a loser, just kill me, whatever, you know. We're fine with it, you know. We're happy we're going to heaven. So it's not that big of a deal, you know. But anyways, back to the main line, you know, we got, we have this sun and moon, and the devil could have just used the sun and the moon, but he uses man, just like Jesus went through man in his life, with the Bible, with being half man. And the devil is using the same system of man. And, you know, he's created a lot of weird stuff. He's created crazy Chinese technology with this, you know, how much Rome and China likes their sun, you know, with these with the big huge sun, you know, this sun simulator in the sky. And a lot of people know what I'm talking about, you know. It's not me, I'm not just shooting off crazy stuff. You know, if you can find it, look at my book. Maybe I'll put some pieces on it. You know, I've gotten into detail. I've been fighting against this stuff for almost 20 years. And I've gotten into detail on this stuff. I just don't have time for it right now. Every little thing has been spelled out clearly in all directions. God comes to everyone, he warns everyone, but now is the time when it's all opening up to us. They've made a Chinese sun that's a sun simulator. They cloud out up in the stratosphere and do all their chemical crap. And they made a fake moon and a fake stars and stuff. And you know, I'm not going to get into the details, but they're going to play out a giant Catholic mass in the sky, and like the moon disc, you know, when he holds up the disc and everyone eats it and everyone says it's Jesus, and then they bring the sun up and they put the moon in the sun. It's been a typology for hundreds of years, and holidays have been a typology. We've only been playing out the little versions, almost like when Jesus had his holidays, the wave sheaf and first fruits and all these things. And then he played them out in his life, in his 3.5 years. It's about to happen with the devil. He set up holidays for thousands of years, and he's about to play them out in detail. And he knows his time is short. Whoever's honking, hi. He knows his time is short, you know. And he's going to use deception. And he's going to use force. So, you know, we have the sign of Jonah, the wicked and adulterous generation. You know, they want signs and stuff. They want proof, and the devil's going to give them proof. If it's based on your eyes and your ears and your senses, you're going to be lost. It's not. It's based on God in us and God's system and us accepting his system. You know, we invite him into our hearts. It's not a war, a physical war. This is about saving souls. This is about witnessing for the God that we know and love. And the more we find out about him, the more we love it with him. Doctrines show us who he is. And he didn't just show up and everything was the way it was. He made things for a reason, and he had things created for, you know, out and play out for a reason. So we have to trust 100%. It's time for the little trust to go into 100%. Even the 90%'s no good in these end times. We got 100% trust and follow God as we know him. There's tons of people that have him in their heart and don't know him by name. I'm not trying to preach some fluffy, just forget about Jesus. The Son of God came and died for us in our place, lived a perfect life, died. His blood is what gets us through. That's the mechanism, and it's the quickest way to understand. But the silliness in all these churches is going to turn you away from Christianity. Everyone's wrong and everyone's right in parts. So we just gotta do everything we can. We gotta love like we've never loved before. And especially now, especially before Easter, because after Easter it's going to get bad, and a lot of people are going to die at Easter. So we got to know, you know, by this Chinese robots and all this stuff, we got to know what's real and what's right. You know, they've created this, you know, super small sort of demon technology, and they got these little robots with 19 functions that are in nearly everyone by now. And their functions are to control sun worship. Look up the word corona. All 6 definitions are this false Christ. It's a round light in a church. It's a halo around an eclipsed sun, like the black hole sun. You know, it's a capacitor at its highest charge. It's a crown. It's nuts. It's the center of a narcissus flower, like over a doorpost. Come on. So anyways, this Corona op is going on to prepare the world for this false Christ, and it's happening also to shut people up and isolate people and stop people from talking about this stuff. All this stuff is really about sun worship, and both sides think the other side's the virus. But the devil's side has the selfishness side, everyone that wants to be their own gods and set up a system so they can be their own gods and share this godness with everyone else. Everyone has basic human rights, and it sounds wonderful, but they're going to force people everyone has a right to a day off. Sunday, Saturday's the Sabbath, Sunday's in honor of the sun god. It sounds crazy, but when he comes down and enforces it by law, it won't sound that crazy anymore. When the Adventists leave town, a lot of them, it's time to think about things, But, so anyways, we got this Easter is coming, and it's one of the biggest ones. It's the kickoff. It's the god of fertility comes and makes everything new, in the spring. The first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. This stuff's been happening since before the times of Jesus. Constantine and others just brought in all these, Christianized all these pagan things, statues and stuff, just so they can bring, the pagans into Christianity or whatever. But Easter is going to be also the Mass, the big Easter Mass. And just like the disc is held up and the sun comes up and they put the moon disc in the sun and everyone praises it, this time it's going to get really bad by Easter. They're going to call a fast before Easter. And the biggest Protestant's going to stand on the biggest stage, or whatever in D.C. It's going to say, "Help us, God." Honestly say, "Help us, God." And first you're going to have a big earthquake sometime after this, or before this. A giant earthquake. It's a bunch of strung bombs, whatever, nukes, whatever, along all the fault lines. The whole earth is going to shake. And then you're going to have this event where, they say, "Help us, God," at noon, right before noon. Darkness at the break of noon. Shadows even the silver spoon. If you'd have known before, you'd have known too soon type stuff. So anyways, Dylan is our biggest prophet, and the biggest prophet for the suns and the moons is John Lennon, and we're going to see him on stage even playing, it's going to get nuts. Michael Jackson there doing the moonwalk at this big DC show, with the angels and the false Christ. So anyways, one of the functions of these robots is, people can get sick, and when they pray to the sun god, they'll shut it off. When they take the Mass, they'll shut it off, and they'll be healed by the sun, supposedly. And they'll also use it to force people into this sun worship that don't want the pain inside their bodies and things like that. We're going to go through kind of Job type stuff. We're going to have some issues, And there's other function of these things. Like I said, 19 functions inside. They're pretty proud of them, they patented it and everything and all this other stuff. And everyone can say conspiracy theories and stuff, but whatever. So anyways, another function of this is when the false Christ goes around, they're going to melt people from the inside out. And it imitates his coming. When the real Jesus comes, people are going to fry from his glory. Their eyes are going to melt out of their sockets, like it says, in the Bible. So this is imitated. So you got this giant earthquake, you got the sun going black. They're going to shut off the sun, this sun simulator, and everything's going to be black because they've clouded out and got rid of our old sun. And after the sun goes black, the moon's going to go pitch red, like funny red, like dripping blood red. And it's going to give an eerie glow, red glow to this side of the world. And, the sun's going to come over to it, like the Mass. And the moon's going to step in front of the sun. And as the moon goes black, the sun gets a corona rainbow glow around it. It's the corona stuff, the sun worshiping people. So anyways, the moon looks like Jesus was in the blood red moon, and now he's shifted into the sun, Now he's with his dad finally. And then as this corona glow it's going to get brighter as it happens, and then the stars are going to start driving their star planes or aircraft over that look like stars, lit up. And they're going to come to the sun, so all the stars are going to come to the sun now. And when they're all together, that's going to be even brighter. And this big shield, this fake moon, is going to drift away like it's an empty shell, like it used to be the home of Jesus. He used to live there, you know. And it's going to be crazy bright. And as it does a circle around the earth, starting from above the states, they're going to push buttons on people. And even if you tinfoil yourself or hide in a bunker or whatever, they got timers and things like that. They're going to fry people as this ball goes around, this big bird or whatever. It's been in the music for ages. Like, just look who likes the moon and the sun and who's sworn in against it. And you can see who hangs out with who and who does each other's songs. You know, like, you know, Don Henley and stuff, and Paul Simon, and who's hanging out and doing cool songs, you know. So anyways, it's going to spin around the earth and people are going to get fried. But a ton of people are dying already and going to die before this, under this cover of this thing. Sure, you know, this stuff is kicking out different things and viruses and problems and issues. It's just part of it, you know. So it's a little sun inside of people that's gonna corona. And it might not, though. They want to have it in them because they trust their boss, you know. They trust that the buttons won't get pushed. So they're okay with it, you know. And they speak in code and stuff. And the code's pretty cool once you start getting it. A lot of it's Bible code. But so this thing stops over top of D.C., and just Jesus and the angels are called out of the sun, and God stays up there. So it changes back to a normal-looking sun, kind of. And here they come, fire called down from heaven, from the image of the beast, in front of the beast, you know. And the kind of woman riding the beast, the church riding the government. When you say beast, it's not derogatory. It just is symbolic of the government, and a woman's a church, you know, and horns are divisions, and crowns are king divisions, and things like that. So just like hair is faith, you know, hair on your face is faith in yourself, hair on your head is faith in God, things like that. Like this train behind me, you know, passenger train's going to heaven and a freight train's going, you know, the other way to hell. And, you know, this one happens to mix the two. I'm in a town, St. Thomas, you know, Thomas was doubting Thomas, you know, but he still was a saint. There's a lot of good people around, you know. We got a flag sign over there just full of all the, you know, clubs in this place. You know how they do in front of places. God loves people in every single group, you know, and if he tells us to say something to somebody, we do. And if he says, be quiet, we do. You know, this is 100% following God. And whether it costs our life or not, we just flow with it. So a lot of people are going to fry. They're going to be singing Bye-Bye Miss American Pie, you know. They're having their doctrines, their heavy doctrines, their whiskey. And their rye, you know, which is Darnell, this poisoned bread, you know. They're singing, this will be the day that I die. A lot of people know this already. It's going to be different after Easter. It's the beginning of years full of holidays. And the next thing is going to be the, you know, after he establishes himself here, reopens everything up, a sun-worshiping world, all the people he thinks are going to be his enemies are fried as he goes around or killed by this coronavirus. It's going to be nuts. Anyways, so the next thing is going to be 4th of July, devils pour out of CERN. The next thing, and terrorize the world. You know, the next thing to counter that is Halloween. And on Halloween, they do all the sun-worshiping rituals that they're supposed to be doing. And they stop the dead from terrorizing the world, you know, and they become even more sun-worshippers. But it's just a big trick, you know. And then Thanksgiving, the false Christ makes tables full of every single plant's supposed to have beautiful, fragrant flowers and delicious, you know, fruit. Fragrant fruit, you know. All varieties, too. So he's going to produce things that are going to be in heaven and say, this is what is going to be there. We just got to get rid of these people that are not worshiping on, you know, on the right day, on Sunday, and honor the sun god. These Sabbath keepers on Saturday, sunset to sunset. And these people that are not taking the Mass, you know, that represents, you know, that this is, in the Dark Ages, people used to die by the droves for not saying that's the real body of Jesus and not taking the Mass. And it's going to happen again when you say this guy from this man in the moon is the wolf, is not the lamb. You're going to be killed. And we're fine with that. That's why I got the death code on. We're okay with that, right? Devil wants it back. He can get it off me in D.C., Washington, D.C., on New Year, or on Easter, you know, because I'm going to try my damnedest to be down there and watch this guy come down, and I'm not trying to fight him. Jesus already fought him. I'm just saying hi. I'm here. We don't care. We're just going to stand for Christ no matter what. We're going to stand for good. We're going to stand for right no matter what. So, anyways, after the whole Thanksgiving and tables full of food and we just got to get rid of these people, you're going to have the sun get darker and darker and darker, and it's going to get almost black. It's going to get cold and almost black by the 22nd of December. And people are going to know that they have to kill their loved ones in order to appease the sun, God in the sun, you know. They're not worshiping a ball of fire. They think that's his glory that comes off him. He lives in the sun, you know, just like Jesus lived in the moon, but he was a man, you know, the size of a man. That's just where he was at, you know. It's going to sound logical, and all these Mandela effects he's going to create in front of people, it's going to get nuts. So anyways, a huge mass murder before Christmas. Like the father on, Family Guy, he's like, I can't believe Christmas got this complicated, after he says he's got to kill the whole, her whole family. They put it everywhere. It's in cartoons, it's everywhere. That's beside the point. In fact, even me, they don't mind me telling you guys because they want to scare people. They love fear. They want to scare people and let them know they got little robots in them that are going to blow them up. I have no fear, and I know that the Christians fear God more than man. So we're fine with it. You can get me out there all you want. You can have me warn people all you want, freak them out. They're praying, and they're getting strength from above, not from the sun or the moon. So anyways, huge hunt down the false, the Satan impersonates the false Christ on Easter at noon, but he impersonates, God the Father at midnight on Christmas. And but he's not omnipresent. He wishes he was. He's pretty quick, but so he has his devils impersonate the sleigh and Santa and all that and the reindeer. And they go to everybody's house at midnight, and they give them huge gifts if they did their duty, and they give them crap if they haven't done their duty yet. The next thing is Valentine's Day, like 1346, where they went house to house hunting down Protestants and killing them, because they think they've almost got all of them. Family are hiding their family because even though they might worship the sun, they still don't want to kill their family. So they got to do it by force. So the Valentine's Day is the next big mass murder of house to house hunting these guys down. And then they think they've got almost everybody. So St. Patty's Day, they party on the drunk on the blood of the saints, and actually get drunk and think the new heaven's coming. But the only thing that's going to come is the 7 last plagues. But even that they blame on the 144,000 that they just can't seem to get rid of. But they get super empowered by the devil right at the end of their year of getting the plagues, because we got a year to year of decision, the first 3 plagues on Egypt. And then it's all there. It's so many details. And then you got the 7 last plagues, that are their year. So anyways, Easter to Easter, after next Easter, not this one, they got some plagues dropping on them. And even that, they just get more and more pissed at these people. But they can't kill them because they never will, unless God says they're going to die and come back with glorified bodies to fight the devil or whatever. I don't know. I don't really follow prophecies. Because I'm just living this out live. So I don't care what happens next. I'm just going to stand up for God everywhere I go. So I just wanted to get a good video out there for you, and I wanted you to stay strong. We got this covered. Even everybody that's going to disappear before Easter, we got this covered, There's 144,000 out here, we're in every single area of the world, every region. God has got groups of 12 all over the place, going out by 2s and things like that. So we're good. There's people that know these truths that are out in the wilderness. They've been out there. They don't have robots in them. They're going to make it through the blast, and they're going to come back in the cities and preach this stuff. We're going to start a whole nother wave after Easter, no matter how many people disappear. And so just, love as much as you can. Like, even if this stuff, you think I'm nuts, just what could it hurt to love intensely for a week and tell people I just have a feeling about this? Like, let's bring people in, Let's bring them into the kingdom. Bring it in the sheaves, right? Just what could it hurt to love intensely, So anyways, that's the gist of it all. Love y'all. Stay safe by staying on the right side. Stay with God as you know him, as he develops before you. And, stay on the right system. When we start hoarding and we start thinking, I got to just protect myself from every single thing around me, instead of going out and doing our duty, then we got to question that, If you're in isolation, study some of these songs. Pray to God that he'll open them up to you. Look at the music, look at the movies. Do some real stuff. Don't waste your time. do some real stuff to help out this world. We need you. We need everybody. It's about community. Everybody works together intensely. It's about community. This is love. But there's a false community that the devil's going to promote. It's so close. Everything is so close. Every detail is so close to the original. We just got to be 100% with God in our hearts and faith in Him and His system, or we're going to fall. You better start swimming, or you're going to sink like a stone. Times are changing. Thanks. Love y'all.